Hello and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Monday, 17 February. I'm your host, Daniel, and today we'll be covering how Serbia's student protesters organise their fight for justice, the significant divide between the US and EU that has opened up in Munich, and the UK is willing to offer peacekeeping troops to Ukraine. So firstly, the student blockades at the University of Novi Sad in Serbia began on November the 2nd, with students demanding accountability for the collapse of the canopy at the Novi Sad railway station that killed 15 people. The protests spread quickly through the university, with the students organising themselves into dedicated teams for logistics, public relations and security. They operate on a system of democracy, making decisions as a collective assembly, open to all participants. Despite facing physical attacks, the students have remained organised and committed, with security teams like the Beavers ensuring safety during protests. The movement has gained significant traction, leading to widespread protests across Serbia and the resignation of key political figures, including the Serbian Prime Minister and the Mayor of Novi Sad. While the students are cautious of external influences and remain distrustful of opposition entities, they are recognised as a legitimate political force in the country. The movement's structure, which emphasizes collective decision-making and lacks identifiable leaders, has protected itself from infiltration and corruption. As they carefully consider their next steps, the students remain focused on achieving their demands of justice in Serbia. So what? These protests have had a significant influence on Serbian politics, something the country hasn't seen for a long time. The decentralized nature of the group with no definitive leaders makes it difficult to track, similar to that of some terror groups. While this is a rough comparison, it is likely the same lens through which they are being viewed by the Serbian government. It also seems unlikely that the protests will stop anytime soon, making it possible that they could lead to real change within the Serbian government, or on a sadder note, possibly lead to significant violent crackdowns by government forces. It'll be interesting to see which way it goes for the Serbian people. And next, at the Munich Security Conference, US Vice President J.D. Vance's speech highlighted a growing rift between the US and Europe. Following a tense phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, European leaders expressed concerns about being sidelined in discussions about Ukraine and the international order. The German President, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, and European Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen emphasized the importance of US-European cooperation and increased European defense spending. However, Vance's speech focused on internal threats to democracy in Europe, criticizing actions such as the annulment of Romania's elections and restrictions on protests in the UK, which left many European allies dismayed. The speech drew criticism from politicians and political commentators alike, who noted that Vance's remarks breached diplomatic norms and contained conspiracy theories. The fundamental disagreement between the US and Europe now extends beyond crisis zones to core democratic values, as the transatlantic alliance faces ideological rifts. European leaders must rethink their influence and find ways to re-emphasize common ground with the US. Unexpectedly, the Chinese foreign minister offered an interesting perspective, describing Europe and China as partners and stressed the importance of UN-led international systems and Europe's role in the Ukrainian peace process. So what? This was a pretty interesting speech to watch, and while some of it made sense, some of it was sadly based on incorrect information. One key takeaway was that the US Vice President, and therefore likely other senior members within the Trump government, have taken stories on social media as fact, rather than addressing these concerns with the governments of those countries. They have just reiterated them in a large public forum. While it is likely that this speech was designed as a wake-up call for Europe, it possibly had a far more significant effect than was planned, one that has now taken Europe to look at redefining numerous policies. And lastly, the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has expressed his readiness to send peacekeeping troops to Ukraine if necessary, emphasizing the importance of guaranteeing Ukrainian security for the broader security of Europe and the UK. He acknowledged the gravity of potentially putting British servicemen and women in harm's way, but stressed the UK's commitment to supporting Ukraine. Starmer will attend a high-level meeting in Paris with key European allies to discuss the situation in Ukraine and European security amid growing concerns about US efforts to end the war, and JD Vance's speech. European leaders, including those from Germany, Italy, Poland, Spain, the Netherlands, and Denmark, will gather in Paris ahead of the third anniversary of the Russian invasion. The meeting aims to address the need for a coherent and enhanced European security strategy in light of the recent US speeches. European officials are particularly concerned about the potential undermining of Kiev's position and the broader security implications if the US strikes a peace deal with Russia that excludes European input. So what? This story is a direct result of the previous. However, it should be noted that the UK and France have previously discussed sending peacekeepers to Ukraine earlier this year. In general, I think it is highly unlikely to occur due to Russia needing to agree to the peace plan. However, noting the current state of the Russian economy, it may be something they are willing to accept if it also helps them get more favourable terms. For example, if they get to keep some of the resource-rich areas of Ukraine, then they may be more open to it, though I still think it is unlikely. I don't see this as a call for the UK to go to war, more a sign of the UK is not going to back down on its support for Ukraine. Thank you for tuning in to the Intel Brief, your daily update on global geopolitics, brought to you by HM Intelligence. To support the show, you can share it with your friends and leave us a 5-star review. And if you're curious to learn more about intelligence, check out one of our courses in the description below. Thank you for listening. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you next time.